Welcome. I have already explained my capsule wardrobe project, and that is what I'm starting with today. So we're just going to dive right into that, and we're starting with the corduroy dress. I have this beautiful burgundy corduroy here, and I'm just gonna dive right in. So let's go. Before working with corduroy, you should know there's a nap or directionality to the fibers, and it'll feel smoother one way than the other. This can also change the way the color looks. I decided how I wanted my fabric to lay, then immediately cut everything out upside down. This isn't really an issue. I still ended up with a wearable dress, but it did feel like a really silly mistake to make. For the dimensions of the dress, I used the waistline as a starting point and measured up to how high I wanted the front of the dress to be, how wide I wanted that part, and how high up I wanted it to come on the sides. For the skirt, I determined the desired length and how much space I wanted at the waist. I divided those measurements in half and marked the shape on the fabric folded in half. Then I cut out the piece, adding space around the edges for seam allowance. I used that piece as a guide and cut out an identical piece, but this time as two separate pieces for the button closure. For the pockets, I cut out two rectangles and trimmed one edge down to an angle. Then I could zigzag stitch around the edges and pin them to the skirt. I accidentally cut them out with the nap going the other way, and you can see here how much that changes the color. I could have cut out new pocket pieces, but I thought it looked kind of interesting and I'm lazy, so I left it as is. I first top stitched the pockets on with a regular seam allowance, then again with a slightly smaller seam allowance. This added extra security and some visual interest. With the pockets attached, I lined up the front and back dress pieces with right sides together and sewed them together at the side seams. To protect the raw edges, I finished these seams with a flat felled hem by trimming down one side to about 1/4 of an inch, then folding the other side over and top stitching down close to the folded edge. To finish the top edges, I folded them over twice and simply top stitched them down. Next up was the straps. I cut out two pieces of the desired length and double the width, folded them in half and top stitched them. Then I pinned and sewed them to the back of the dress first, then pinned them at the front so I could determine the right strap length and sewed those in place as well. To reinforce the buttons and buttonholes, I cut out two strips of fabric the length of the dress. I'm also apparently wearing the dress in this shot for some reason. It's not finished yet, I just have it on. I sewed the reinforcement strips to the front of the openings with right sides together, then flipped them around to the inside, tucking the raw edges under and top stitched them in place. I marked the placement for both the buttons and the buttonholes with pins and went about finishing that up. I finished the buttons and tried it on, and the dress is freaking enormous on me. So I have pinned along and I'm gonna take off quite a large amount from the sides, and then I think it'll actually fit well, and then we'll be back on track for adding the straps in the front and hemming, and that's all that's left. So yes, a little, oh, and I have to re-sew on the pockets. I had to take them off to be able to take in the sides. So add those a little bit closer to the center front, and then yes, we'll be back on track. After fixing up my mistakes, I could finish sewing the straps on. I sewed them by machine first, but the edges were sticking up a bit, so I tacked those down by hand. Finally, it was time for the hem. I trimmed the dress to the correct length, then folded the bottom up twice and pinned. You can definitely top stitch this by machine,
but I decided to whip stitch the hem by hand. Because of the striations in the fabric, rather than sew horizontally, I tried to line my stitches up vertically so that they'd run parallel with the ridges in the fabric and would hopefully be less visible, if that makes any sense. And with that, this dress and the first piece in my capsule wardrobe was finished. I've only paired it with the black turtleneck so far, but it is the perfect dress for those milder fall and winter days. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more sewing and cosplay content. My next video will be the making of a hobbity cloak, so definitely check back soon. And also, I got engaged. Okay, bye!